Hey everybody, this is Aaron the Pedantic. Today's my great unveiling. Little did you know, this whole time, I was a nerd who wears glasses. You thought I was just a normal nerd. No, I am double nerd. I wear glasses. So I finally got me a new pair. It's been quite a while, and I've desperately missed wearing them. But yeah, so I was sure somebody was going to point it out. So I'm going to get ahead of you and point it out first. But today I wanted to talk about my game last night because holy crap, y'all. This whole video is just going to be a preface to have the discussion with you fine people about what do you do when you mess up. Because I messed up pretty bad last night, and it turned out to be not a terrible thing, but as far as people's enjoyment goes. And there were perhaps a few reasons why I made the mistakes that I did. But at the same time, I'm happy to carry on with what the adjudication was. Let's just stop let's just get to it. So basically, for those who don't know, I have a public Old School Essentials game server where we run Old School Essentials with a few modifications, and it's a public game group, sort of West Marches style as far as scheduling and stuff goes. You kind of sign up if you want to attend that session or whatever, and then we run it. And it can be, this group this time, this group next time. You can choose which locations you go to, sort of. That's how it started, but now it's kind of become more of like, well, now as a group, we kind of want to do this and whatever. But moral of the story is that they had been working on a few of my dungeons for some time. So we started this whole thing in January, and we've been playing for ever since then, with only a few times when we couldn't meet. The Wednesday group kind of, I had to miss that a few times because of work-related stuff, but the Monday group we've been hitting pretty regularly for some time, and I had Site F and Site A and Site C. So Site C was a very short one. They were able to finish that in maybe like 3 sessions, but Site F, it took quite a long time, and they were finally able to finish that one. I'll probably get into more detail on that another time. But after they finished that, the group that finished Site F had the chance to go and finish Site A. And that session was really a lot of fun, I have to say. They had the opportunity to encounter some very interesting NPCs and decide if they wanted to parlay with them or slay them. It really looked like they were going to slay them because they went on this whole spree of just stabbing all of the invisible eye cameras, basically, that they could find. I'll get into more detail on that on like an official, campaign update video. But moral of the story is then they decided to descend into the depths of the basement. And what they did not know is that in the basement this whole time, if they ever decided to actually go into the basement, you have on the first floor kobolds, single hit die kobolds, and quite a few of them. And then you have sewers where there's some drow. And then in the basement, or actually they're caverns beneath the sewers, you have carrion crawlers and you have a red dragon. And so they decided to go ahead and try and clear the whole dungeon because there's a clearing bonus. You get extra XP if you clear the whole dungeon. You get XP for every floor. I may amend that to be like every time you clear a floor, you get XP for it, but whatever. We'll see. But anyway, so they went down into the bottom level and they encountered this dragon. And by this point, they were not prepared for a red dragon, especially one of this power. This was a massive dragon. One would even ask, how did this dragon even get into this cavern? And to which I would say, possibly some Vaseline and a lot of time just sliding through these tight passages. But anyway, so there's a massive dragon in here. There's a cult with a whole bunch of cultists. I had maintained in my notes basically that the cultists were corrupted by the influence of the dragon, and that they had basically lost a lot of their humanity, and in fact their minds were kind of infected by the dragon's consciousness. This comes to be important later. So basically what ended up happening is you have a relatively decent level fighter. I think he's level 6, and then 2 magic users, and then a whole bunch of porters. And there's some porters, a cartographer, and they left their mule back behind for the moment. And they just run into this 13 hit die dragon, which of course they didn't know what the hit die was, but it was a very old, powerful dragon. And so there was the whole question, how fast are they going to run? That's the question that you would think it would be, right? Because it's like they're going to get their asses kicked by this thing. But no, what instead happened was a plan emerged. So one of the characters decided to take a potion of gaseous form and quaffed this potion. It turned into a gas and basically crawled up the nostril of this dragon as it was watching these cultists do their thing. And so whenever I read the item description for the potion of gaseous form, it says that they turn into a vapor. And then so I had to decide, well, okay, is this vapor going to be visible? Probably not. I'd probably say it's probably not visible. And it, basically it can just work its way through cracks and stone and stuff like that. So surely it can get up the nasal cavity of an enormous dragon. And as I said, this is an enormous dragon. But here's the thing. Whenever you do that, you shed all of your equipment, you shed your clothes, you're just bare ass naked, and you turn into a mist, or a vapor. So he decided to go up the nose, and he wanted to go into the brain cavity, and he has this particular mutation where he can cause himself to explode like a fireball. And he was going to use that inside of the dragon's skull. So, wow, right? Well, my mistake was that I was tired. I think that's a good part of it. I was tired. Normally whenever I have these kinds of questions about anatomy and things like that, I would often Google them, and I didn't even think to do that. I'd been up for quite a while. I can't blame it entirely on that, but, I didn't really think it through 100%, but I was like, okay, if, there's no reason why he wouldn't be able to get up that thing's nose. I mean, surely it is breathing in and out, but at the same time, there's no restrictions on movement while he's in that form. It doesn't specify that he's faster or slower. I would say that, I could have made a ruling that it would be slow, but at the same time, there was really nothing to support it other than what was happening at the moment. And the reason that's relevant is that if it was slow moving, then perhaps with the inhale and the exhale, it would just keep on pushing him back out. That was a possibility that I didn't really consider at the time. So he wanted to go into the brain cavity, and again, I didn't consider anatomy. And one of the things that I looked up after the fact, because a lot of times it's, you can look up stuff in the moment. There's nothing really too terrible about that. I tend to do that if it's something that is related to something in the real world that I just don't know. I don't really do it. I do it with rules a little bit, but not often, because I don't like to slow things down. But whenever it came to that, it turns out that, the brain is completely sealed within the skull. So like there's no openings or anything. If there is an opening, there's something wrong. There's been some kind of trauma or something like that. Usually air is not supposed to be able to get up in there at all. And I didn't know that. If I would have known that, then I would have said, okay, you're in the nasal cavity, but what are you going to do now? Basically. So I kind of failed there. I dropped the ball there. And then there was the moment when he returned to normal. Now, so this one I did think about. I was like, okay, is there enough space inside its skull for him to still be in there and be, not squished, basically? And what I kind of decided was, it seemed feasible that there would be some space in the skull somewhere, and this is a gigantic skull. That would be a thing. There would be some space, probably enough for a completely naked, I don't know, 5 to 6 foot human to be inside the skull of this mammoth creature. And so I said, yeah, that's fine, I guess. So he did his explosion thing, which normally, he wouldn't have that, but he had devoured a red scarab from somebody else's quest that made it where he can do that. I don't know what the occurrence is, if it's like once a day or something like that, but basically he can cause himself to blow up like a fireball, and he is resistant to magical fire, and he is immune to mundane fire, basically. So he did that. He blew up inside the thing's skull. Half of the brain was torched the way I ruled it, because I looked over the red dragon, and what it says is that with magical fire, it will take half damage. And so I was like, well, half a brain, half damage. There you go. But half a brain being crispy is too much. And I am of the particular belief system that if someone is helpless to defend themselves, and you can do a lethal blow, there's no need to involve dice. That's just my personal philosophy under most situations. Now, let's say that somebody's trying to sneak attack on a dragon, or the dragon's sleeping and they want to stab it. It's like, okay, you do a lot of damage, sure, but it's not dead. But in this case, you can't really carry on without a brain, really. So in this case, I ruled that basically he died. And remember, the cultists, which this would have been a problem. The cultists, there's about 30 of them, all would have had blood, in their mind. They would have wanted to kill this meddling person that just destroyed their god, basically. But remember, as I said, their consciousness was connected. So whenever his brain died, theirs did as well. They were corrupted. So they are all dead. So there went that threat that I was going to otherwise use. And then what I failed to consider after that is, okay, so you blew up inside the thing's skull, but at the same time, did the head explode? Because if the head didn't explode, then you're going to have to find a way out of this body with nothing but your bare hands, is the question. And I would assume that while inside that cavity, you would be struggling to breathe very well. You would eventually pass out, and you would eventually die. That's my assumption. But in the moment, I didn't think about it. Again, tired. We'd been playing for several hours. It was late. We were excited because dragon, just all kinds of stuff. And so at the end of the day, they managed to slay this dragon to get all of this treasure. And it was an incredible amount of treasure. To get a ton of experience. Most of them leveled up at least twice. Yes, I know that there is a rule about leveling up more than once per session, and I choose to ignore that rule just for personal reasons. I feel like if you earned the XP, then you get the XP. I'm pretty strict about how XP is given, but I don't stop just arbitrarily because I want you to go one level at a time or something like that. So, that's what happened. Basically, he turned into a gas, went up its nose, blew up in its brain, and killed an enormous ancient dragon that I had sitting underneath the kobold fort all this time. And I had just been dying for the players to go down there and discover this thing and just be like, oh my God, there's a dragon and we've been fighting kobolds, like just the idea that this has been sitting here the whole time. And, nobody's known a thing about it. It was a great surprise that I was wanting to get to unleash upon them. And they were surprised. So that's what happened. So I guess what I wanted to ask y'all is, what would you have done? Would you have, number one, would you have allowed the ruling in the way that I did? Would you have been more strict? would you basically put barriers in the way, mechanically speaking? Because really there's not a whole lot that could say that you couldn't go up the nose of a dragon as a gas. There's not really a whole lot to say that, but there were other things involved. I'm just curious what kind of rulings y'all would make, but more importantly, whenever you realize that you've made a ruling that perhaps was not what you wanted and not what you felt was the most accurate ruling, but was one that people ended up enjoying in the end, then what do? Do you retro it? Do you pretend it never happened? Do you change it? Do you just carry on? My personal decision with this was I'm carrying on. I'm going to consider it a lesson learned. This is part of the reason why I definitely have a lot of respect for people that have been DMing for, a long period of time, because they've probably seen a situation like this and they probably are like, oh, I wouldn't have fallen for that. And that may be true. And so, I have a lot of respect for people that have put in the hours, so to speak. But, as much as I sometimes am capable of giving good advice that I have learned along the way, there's still a lot of learning for me to do. So, let's just have a discussion about it in the comments. And y'all are awesome. And hopefully I'll be picking up the content more regularly soon. It's just been very chaotic. And I may have a bit more chaos coming up ahead just because of work stuff. But regardless, y'all are awesome. I appreciate you. If you comment, I'm probably going to respond, or I'm at least going to let you know that I read it. So, and if you want to join the games, we keep on having them. We could use more referees if you're interested in running a game. We do use the same system. Everybody is running the same way, even though we have our own personal flares about it. We have the same procedures that we use, and we all are playing in the same world. But other than that, you're free to insert your own greatness. And if you just want to play, we got spots. We got like last night we had room for another player. Actually, we had room for more players. If for more than that. We had originally 5 players in that group, but we could just as easily have 8 players, and it's no problem. So just feel free to come on by. I'll try to put a link in the description. I keep forgetting. But y'all take care. Have an awesome, awesome week, and you're the best.